I'm in a place that locals have described ground zero of the flooding in New York. I'm in a working class neighborhood in Mamaroneck by the Long Island Sound. That's just north of New York City. And here, this street became a rushing river overnight. Quite suddenly. One man told me at 4 p.m. he was cooking a steak outside, and by evening this was a river and the water was up to here. You can see right beside me this garage that is entirely flooded. Every garage along this street is like that, and some people told me that they had near-death experiences last night. One young couple just down the road told me that they had to swim to get to their house from the local train station, and when they got there it was impossible to get in because the door was entirely flooded. They have not been able to get in since. People just across the way over there had to abandon their homes overnight. They said they had absolutely no help. They climbed up onto a hill, and that is where they stayed overnight. I spoke to a single mom who was in floods of tears. She was headed to the local high school. That's where people whose homes are no longer inhabitable have had to go to seek shelter. She was in tears telling me, you know, we've had the pandemic and now this. She doesn't know if her insurance is going to cover anything. Single mum raising a little girl. She's worried about how she's going to cope with the return to school. It's quite noisy where I am because everyone has generators, or they're at least sharing them out across the street to pump out all the water from their basements. One man told me that an elderly lady across the road was very frightened. She almost became stuck in her basement. Neighbors helped her to get out. What I can say is we're seeing a lot of solidarity here between neighbors, but they're rather upset with the local authorities. They say that they haven't had any help to get the water out, or indeed overnight there was no response to calls to 911.
Yeah, Jessica, when a few years back there was Superstorm Sandy and that surge that battered parts of New York City, there were warnings before it hit. Did you see it coming? Was there a warning before these record flash floods?
People here say the warnings were definitely not enough. They did not expect it to come so hard and so fast. It was almost as though all of a sudden the flood warnings came in, and these tornado warnings in New York as well. And that is why you could argue people got caught short and people died due to this flooding. There were several cases along here. One man told me that he had not expected it. He almost got trapped and he thought that he was going to drown in his house as the water came flooding in. He did manage to get out, but there were some people who were not so fortunate, and the complaint in New York City and the surrounding areas this Thursday is that there was not enough warning about quite how serious this was going to be.